I would collect wildflower seeds, poppy seed pods, and I would be on my bike and I would throw these poppy seed pods everywhere. My name's Alicia Escott, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist dealing with environmental and social justice issues in my work. My art studio is out in Ocean Beach. I was doing some research on that area at some point in time, and I realized that it was actually the very ground that my studio is on was actually the home of the first North American butterfly extinction, documented butterfly extinction. So then I started doing a project many years later with the mission blue butterfly. And around that time, I had started seed saving from native local wildflower plants. I started growing the host species for that butterfly, the mission blue butterfly. And so I started growing them in sculptures every year. And it was originally in that show that I was looking for how to tie them as sculptures and as interesting objects. I ended up with these bags which take on a really bodily shape and can be really relatable. They can be kind of staged in such a way that they often feel like they're in dialogue with each other. And that became really interesting because they're both embodied and disembodied. You know, they're entire little micro ecosystems in their own right, and yet I can scoop them up and carry them around and take them from place to place. Those were originally used to hold rugs. You know, plastic is a part of nature. It's been molecularly altered. It's extremely destructive to us and to, you know, most species as we know them. But having the plants in there felt like it was like this really regenerative, hopeful moment coming out of apocalypse. So staging these, which were originally in larger installations with drawings on plastic, and then staging these actual growing things in them, I felt like talked about that tension. Especially with like just plant little saplings and sprouts coming out of these like wastelands. And so it talked about apocalypse, but also possibility. And you know, I don't like to use that term apocalypse. And originally, when I had them, I loved them then they were green and nascent. And then it was to my shock when it became a very successful container for these plants, and they actually flourished. These huge blooms came out of them, and in a way those were like too beautiful for the work. They were so stunning. The next cycle of growing them was actually during pandemic, and I had all these shows planned. Of course, all those shows were either canceled or postponed past the lifespan of these works. And so they ended up blooming in my backyard during the pandemic, which was so, during that challenging time, was so powerful and also spoke to the things that were being cultivated in the deep, dark soil of the pandemic and the social justice movements that were arising and the possibility that came out of that. And it also made me, it ended up being like the greatest success to have them bloom in my backyard, because all of a sudden all these pollinators that I had never seen there came. And I realized, like, oh, like I don't want these in galleries. I want to make art for non-human audiences, and that was who I wanted to be in dialogue with. With this work and like wanting to make art for non-human audiences, it definitely brings up now, like, is that just gardening? Is that the ultimate success of that? That being said, all of my work is very layered. And you know, I'll have an idea, but then on top of that idea, you know, co-evolves other ideas that intersect and sometimes get a little bit messy and tangled. I have a tendency to make a drawing, and that drawing becomes a sculpture, and the sculpture becomes a video, and so that sort of layering, which is also, I think, how ecologies are built, you know, is through that. There's one idea that can lead to another, ideas flourishing.